The rain hammered against Ethan Cole's windshield like accusations he couldn't answer. Through the blurred glass, he saw her, a woman in blood-stained scrubs sitting alone at a bus stop that hadn't seen service in months, crying like the world had finally broken her. Every instinct screamed at him to drive past. His daughter was waiting. He had rules about strangers. But her shoulders shook with a grief he recognized in his own mirror, and before his better judgment could stop him, his truck was pulling over. Neither of them knew that this single moment of unexpected kindness would unravel every carefully constructed wall they'd built around their broken hearts, and force them both to choose between the safety of isolation and the terrifying possibility of being whole again. If you want to see how two shattered souls find healing in the most unexpected places, stay with me until the end. And if this story reaches you, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far hope can travel. Now let's begin. The rain came down in sheets that October evening, turning Portland's streets into rivers of reflected neon and headlight glare. Ethan Cole gripped the steering wheel of his aging Ford pickup, his calloused fingers drumming an anxious rhythm as he navigated toward home. The dashboard clock glowed 8:47 p.m., later than he'd promised Mia. Again. The furniture commission had taken longer than expected. The client, a lawyer with more money than patience, had insisted on 3 rounds of adjustments to a dining table that was already perfect. But Ethan had smiled through gritted teeth and made the changes because the deposit on that table meant Mia's field trip money was covered, with enough left over for new winter boots she desperately needed but would never ask for. He was rehearsing his apology, something funny to make her laugh instead of worry, when his headlights caught the figure at the bus stop. She sat on the metal bench, hunched forward with her face in her hands, shoulders trembling. Medical scrubs, he noticed. Blue ones, darkened by rain and what might have been blood. No jacket, no umbrella, no bag. The bus shelter's light had burned out weeks ago, leaving her in near darkness except for the rhythmic sweep of passing headlights. Ethan's foot eased toward the brake before his mind caught up. Not your problem, he thought. Mia's waiting. But something about the woman's posture struck him with uncomfortable recognition. The specific way grief folded a person inward, trying to make themselves small enough to disappear. He'd sat exactly like that 2 years ago, in a hospital corridor after the doctor had spoken the words that ended his world as he knew it. The truck slowed, stopped. Ethan cursed under his breath. He pulled to the curb 20 feet past the shelter and sat there, engine running, wipers beating their steady rhythm. Through the rain-streaked mirror, he watched her. She hadn't moved, hadn't even looked up at his truck. This is stupid, he told himself. Portland's full of people having bad nights. You can't save everyone. But his hand was already reaching for the door handle. The rain soaked through his canvas jacket in seconds. He approached carefully, making noise so he wouldn't startle her, his work boots splashing through puddles that reflected the city's indifferent glow. "Hey," he called out when he was still several feet away. "Miss, you okay?" She didn't look up. For a moment he thought she might not have heard him over the rain. Then her shoulders stiffened slightly, the universal body language of someone who wanted to be left alone but was too exhausted to say so. Ethan stopped at a respectful distance. Up close, he could see she was younger than he'd first thought, maybe early 30s. Her dark hair hung in wet tangles around her face. The stains on her scrubs were definitely blood, though not enough to suggest injury. Her hands, still covering her face, trembled. "I know this is weird," he said, raising his voice slightly against the rain. "But this stop's been out of service for 3 months. Bus won't come." Her hands lowered slowly. When she finally looked up, Ethan felt something twist in his chest. Her face was striking even in distress. High cheekbones, dark eyes swollen from crying, skin pale with exhaustion. But it was the expression she wore that hit him. Not just sadness, but a bone-deep defeat that went beyond a single bad day. "I know," she said quietly. Her voice carried an accent he couldn't quite place, refined, educated, with the faintest lilt that suggested English wasn't her first language. "I just needed to sit somewhere that wasn't there." She gestured vaguely back toward the medical complex visible in the distance, its lit windows like accusatory eyes. Ethan stood there, rain running down his neck, suddenly aware of how strange this must look. A strange man approaching a vulnerable woman in the dark. He took a small step back, showing her he understood the optics. Look, I'm heading north toward Fremont, he said. If you need a ride somewhere dry, the offer's there. No strings. I've got a daughter waiting at home, so I'm not going anywhere weird. But I get it if you'd rather wait for a ride share or whatever. She studied him for a long moment. He wondered what she saw. A man in his 30s, tall and broad-shouldered from years of physical work, with the kind of face that had seen its share of hard weather. His jacket was frayed at the cuffs. His jeans were paint-stained. He probably looked exactly like what he was. A working-class single father who couldn't afford to be anyone's hero, but couldn't quite walk past someone drowning either. Why? She asked finally. The question caught him off guard. Why what? Why stop? You don't know me. Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair, surprised by his own honesty. Because about 2 years ago, I sat on a bench like that, and nobody stopped, and I remember wishing someone had. Something flickered in her expression, recognition maybe, or the faint surprise of finding unexpected kinship. She glanced back at the medical complex, then at the rain, then at him. When she stood, she swayed slightly, catching herself against the shelter's frame. Okay, she said. Thank you. They drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. She sat pressed against the passenger door, her arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the rain-blurred city. Ethan kept his attention on the road and tried not to make this any more awkward than it already was. The truck's heater wheezed to life, filling the cab with warm air that smelled faintly of sawdust and coffee. She'd stopped shivering at least. Small victories. I'm Ethan, by the way, he offered. Ethan Cole. She turned her head slightly. Lena Park. Nice to meet you, Lena, despite the weird circumstances. The corner of her mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Despite that, yes. Where can I take you? I'm guessing not back to the hospital. She hesitated, looking lost. I have an apartment in Southeast, near Hawthorne, but honestly, I don't want to go there either. Ethan understood that feeling. After Sarah left, his apartment had felt like a crime scene for months, every corner holding evidence of the life that used to be. There's a diner near my place, he said carefully. Nothing fancy, but it's warm and the coffee's decent. Sometimes neutral ground helps. Lena was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, Boissam. The Beacon Diner had been a Portland institution for 40 years, a chrome and vinyl throwback that somehow survived every attempt at neighborhood gentrification. At 9 p.m. on a Wednesday, it was nearly empty except for a handful of night shift workers and insomniacs. Ethan slid into his usual booth near the back. Lena sat across from him, looking around the diner with the careful attention of someone forcing themselves to focus on something other than their own thoughts. Rita, the night shift waitress who'd been serving Ethan coffee since he was a teenager, appeared with 2 mugs and a knowing look. Usual, honey? She asked Ethan. Please, and whatever she wants. Lena glanced at the laminated menu. Just coffee. Black. Rita's eyebrows rose slightly. She had opinions about people who didn't eat, but she just nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. Steam rose from their mugs. Lena wrapped both hands around hers, finally showing signs of returning to her body. The diner's fluorescent lights were unforgiving, but in them, Ethan could see details he'd missed in the rain and darkness. The careful way she held herself, like someone used to being watched. The exhaustion etched around her eyes that spoke of weeks, not hours. The small gold stud earrings that suggested a life that once included normal concerns, like accessories. Bad shift? He asked, gesturing toward her scrubs. Lena's jaw tightened. You could say that. I don't mean to pry, just making conversation. No, it's... She sighed, a sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep. It was my last shift, actually. I quit. Ethan waited, sensing there was more. Or was fired, she continued, her voice flat. Depending on who tells the story. Either way, I'm done with Mercy Heights. That where you worked? The trauma center? Temporarily, I was... She stopped herself, lips pressing together. I was between things. It was supposed to be short-term while I figured out my next move. The careful phrasing told Ethan she was editing her story, protecting something. He recognized it because he did the same thing when people asked about Mia's mother. Rita returned with pie, cherry for Ethan, which he hadn't ordered but always got, and an extra slice of apple that she set firmly in front of Lena. "On the house," Rita said, in a tone that invited no argument. "You look like you could use it, sweetheart." After she left, Lena stared at the pie like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Rita's got strong opinions about self-care," Ethan said. "Easier to just eat it." Lena picked up her fork and took a small bite, then another. Within minutes, the pie was gone, and color had started returning to her face. "When's the last time you ate?" Ethan asked gently. "Yesterday, I think. Maybe." She looked embarrassed. "I've been working doubles. Picked up every shift I could get. Figured staying busy was better than thinking." Yes, Ethan understood that strategy intimately. After Sarah left, he'd taken on enough commission work to fill 18-hour days, anything to exhaust himself enough to sleep without dreaming. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said suddenly. "Why did you really stop? The truth, not the kind version." Ethan considered lying or deflecting, but something about the way she asked, like she was testing whether honesty was even possible anymore, made him answer straight. "Because I recognize the posture," he said. "The way you were sitting, like you were trying to fold into yourself until you disappeared. I've been there. And when you're there, sometimes the smallest act of human kindness is the only thing that reminds you you're still real." Lena's eyes glistened. She blinked rapidly, looking away. "I'm sorry," Ethan said quickly. "Too heavy for a Wednesday night." "No." Her voice was thick. "No, that was... Thank you for seeing that. Most people look right through it." They sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee, while rain continued to stream down the diner's windows. Gradually, Lena's shoulders dropped from their defensive hunch. She asked about his work, and he told her about the furniture business, how he'd started in his garage and slowly built a reputation for custom pieces. Nothing fancy, but honest work. He showed her a photo of his current project on his phone, a rocking chair in cherry wood with delicate spindle work. "That's beautiful," she said, studying it. "You made that?" "Most of it. Still needs finishing." "You have real talent." The compliment warmed him more than it should have. "Thanks. It's just woodworking, but I like it. Something about taking raw material and shaping it into something useful and beautiful. There's satisfaction in that." "Creation instead of destruction," Lena murmured. "I understand the appeal." There was weight in those words, a story she wasn't telling. Ethan wanted to ask, but sensed she'd already shared more than she'd planned. His phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Chen, his neighbor who watched Mia when he worked late. "She's asleep. Take your time." Relief and guilt washed through him in equal measure. He was grateful for the flexibility, but hated that Mia had gone to bed without him again. "Your daughter?" Lena asked, noticing his expression. "Yeah, she's with my neighbor. I was supposed to be home an hour ago." "I'm keeping you from her. I'm sorry." "No, you're not. She's fine. Mrs. Chen's great." He hesitated, then decided to just say it. "Her name's Mia. She's 9. She's the reason I do everything I do." Something softened in Lena's face. "You're a single father?" 2 years now. Her mother left when Mia was 7. Decided family life wasn't for her after all. That must have been devastating. For Mia, yeah. For me. Ethan shrugged. Honestly, the leaving hurt less than the years of watching her resent us. At least now it's just me and Mia, and we know where we stand. Lena nodded slowly. Certainty has value, even painful certainty. Exactly. More silence, but it was comfortable now, the kind of quiet that didn't need filling. I should probably get you home, Ethan said finally, though he found himself reluctant to end this strange, suspended moment. It's late. Lena looked at her watch and seemed surprised by the time. I've taken up your entire evening. You didn't take anything. I offered. Still. Thank you, Ethan. This was... She searched for words. This was the first time in 6 months I felt like a person instead of a problem. The raw honesty of it struck him silent for a moment. 6 months is a long time to feel like a problem. Yes, she said quietly. It really is. Lena's apartment was in a converted warehouse building. The kind of place that probably advertised industrial charm to justify the thin walls and inconsistent heat. Ethan pulled up to the curb and put the truck in park. "Thank you again," Lena said, hand on the door handle. "For stopping, for the coffee and pie, for treating me like a human being when I really needed it." "You don't have to thank me for basic decency. In my experience, basic decency is rare enough to deserve thanks." She opened the door, then paused. "I know this is strange, but would you mind if I paid you back? For the coffee, at least?" Ethan waved it off. "Seriously, don't worry about it." "No, I mean..." She turned to face him fully. "Could I buy you coffee sometime? As a proper thank you? I promise I'll be less of a disaster." He should say no. He had enough complications in his life, but looking at her, at the hope and uncertainty warring in her expression, he found himself nodding. "Sure, yeah, that would be nice." The smile she gave him was small but genuine, and it transformed her face completely. "I'll find you," she said. "Thank you, Ethan Cole." Then she was gone, hurrying through the rain toward her building's entrance. He waited until she was inside before pulling away, feeling oddly lighter than he had in months. The next morning brought sunshine and the organized chaos of getting Mia ready for school. She sat at their small kitchen table, milk-drunk and sleepy, pushing Cheerios around her bowl while Ethan packed her lunch. "Mrs. Chen said you had to work late again," Mia said, not quite accusatory but getting there. "I did. I'm sorry, honey. The client kept changing his mind." "The rich lawyer guy?" "That's the one." Mia wrinkled her nose. "Why do rich people always want everything perfect? Don't they know perfect is boring?" Ethan laughed despite himself. "Where'd you hear that?" "Miss Rodriguez says mistakes make things interesting. Like in art class when I accidentally mixed all the colors and made that weird brown, but then I turned it into a tree and it looked cool." "Ms. Rodriguez is a wise woman." He zipped her lunchbox and set it by her backpack. "Speaking of which, you have art today?" "Yep, we're doing self-portraits. I'm going to make mine with colors nobody expects." "Can't wait to see it." She studied him over her cereal bowl, her dark eyes, so much like her mother's, though everything else was pure Ethan, taking in details he hoped she'd miss. "You look different," she announced. "Different how?" "Less grumpy. Did something good happen?" Ethan considered how to answer. "I helped someone last night. Someone who was having a really hard time. It felt good." "What kind of help?" "Just gave her a ride and bought her coffee, small stuff." "Her?" Mia's eyebrows rose with 9-year-old intrigue. "Like a lady?" "Yes, like a lady. A person who needed help who happened to be female." "Was she pretty?" "Mia." "What? I'm just asking. You always say I should be observant." Ethan sighed, fighting a smile. "Eat your cereal before it gets soggy." But Mia wasn't deterred. "You should help people more often if it makes you less grumpy. Maybe you'll meet more lady friends." "I have lady friends. Rita at the diner, Mrs. Chen." "Your teacher." "Those don't count. They're old." "Mrs. Chen can hear through walls. You know that, right?" Mia giggled and finally returned her attention to breakfast. But Ethan caught her watching him with a small, pleased smile, and he realized his daughter had been worried about him being alone. The thought made his chest tight. Later, after dropping Mia at school and heading to his workshop, Ethan found his mind wandering back to Lena Park. He wondered if she'd really find him, or if the morning light had made her regret the vulnerability of the night before. People said things in crisis they didn't mean when stability returned. He was sanding the rocking chair's armrests when his phone rang from an unknown number. "Hello? Ethan Cole?" A woman's voice, professional and unfamiliar. "Speaking. This is Grace Chen from Portland General Hospital. I'm calling regarding your daughter, Mia Cole." His heart stopped. The sander clattered to the workbench. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's stable, Mr. Cole, but she was brought in about 20 minutes ago from her school. She collapsed during gym class. We're running tests now, but we need you here as soon as possible." The drive to the hospital was a blur of worst-case scenarios and half-remembered prayers to a God he wasn't sure he believed in. He abandoned his truck in the emergency lot and ran inside, giving Mia's name to the first person in scrubs he saw. They led him to a pediatric examination room where Mia lay on a bed that seemed far too large for her small frame. She was awake, which flooded him with relief, but pale and frightened in a way that sent ice through his veins. "Daddy," she said, reaching for him. He was at her side instantly, taking her hand. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. What happened?" "I don't know. We were playing dodgeball and I got really dizzy and then I don't remember." A doctor entered, young, efficient, with the carefully neutral expression they taught in medical school. "Mr. Cole? I'm Dr. Patterson. Mia's stable now, but she had what we call a syncopal episode, a fainting spell. Combined with some concerning symptoms she's been having, we'd like to run more comprehensive tests." "What kind of symptoms?" Dr. Patterson consulted her chart. The school nurse noted that Mia's been visiting her office more frequently over the past few weeks. Headaches, fatigue, occasional dizziness. "Did you know about this?" Guilt crashed over him. "She mentioned being tired a few times, but I thought, she's been staying up reading past bedtime. I didn't realize—" "It's okay. Kids often downplay symptoms, but given what happened today, we want to be thorough. I'd like to admit her overnight for observation and some tests." Overnight. Tests. The words every parent dreaded. Ethan forced himself to focus through the panic. "What are you looking for?" Several possibilities. Could be something simple like anemia or dehydration. Could be something more complex. We won't know until we run the full panel. "But she's going to be okay?" Dr. Patterson's expression softened slightly. "We're going to take very good care of her, Mr. Cole. I promise." It wasn't the reassurance he wanted, but it was all she could give. The next several hours passed in the peculiar purgatory of hospital time, simultaneously endless and fragmented. They moved Mia to a pediatric room with murals of friendly animals that did nothing to make the medical equipment less terrifying. Nurses came and went, drawing blood, checking vitals, asking questions. Mia bore it all with a bravery that broke Ethan's heart. Between tests, she slept fitfully while Ethan sat in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed, holding her hand and trying not to fall apart. He called Mrs. Chen to let her know what happened. He texted his current clients to explain he'd need a few days. He did everything practical and necessary while his mind screamed with all the things he couldn't control. Around 6 p.m., a nurse brought him coffee and a sandwich he couldn't eat. "You should try," she said kindly. "Won't do her any good if you make yourself sick." He forced down half the sandwich to be polite, tasting nothing. He was staring at the wall, exhausted and numb, when someone knocked softly on the doorframe. "Ethan?" He turned, and his exhausted brain took a moment to process what he was seeing. Lena Park stood in the doorway, still in scrubs, different ones from last night, but the same deep blue. She looked as surprised to see him as he was to see her. "Lena? What are you— Do you work here?" "I'm covering shifts while I look for something permanent. I saw the name on the board and thought—" She stepped into the room, her professional composure faltering when she saw Mia. "Is this your daughter?" "Yeah, Mia." Lena's eyes traveled over the monitors, the IV line, taking in details with the swift assessment of someone medically trained. When she looked back at him, her expression had shifted into something he couldn't quite read. "What happened?" she asked quietly. He told her, the call from the school, the tests, the waiting. As he spoke, Lena moved closer to Mia's bedside, her attention focused completely on the sleeping child. "Has anyone explained the test results yet?" she asked. "Dr. Patterson said it'll be tomorrow morning before they have everything back." Lena nodded slowly, her gaze still on Mia. "The attending on this case is Mark Patterson?" "Yes. Do you know him?" "Her? And yes." Something complicated crossed Lena's face. "She's good, thorough. Mia's in capable hands." The way she said it, like she was convincing herself as much as him, sent a chill down Ethan's spine. "Lena, what are you not telling me?" She met his eyes, and he saw the war happening behind them. Professional boundaries versus human connection, protocol versus compassion. "I shouldn't be here," she said finally. "This isn't my case, and I'm not even officially staff, but—" She looked back at Mia. "Can I look at her chart, just to review what they're testing for?" Every protective instinct screamed yes. "Please!" Lena stepped to the computer terminal and pulled up Mia's records with practiced efficiency. She read in silence, her expression growing more focused, more concerned. Finally, she straightened and turned back to him. "They're being appropriately thorough," she said carefully. "Testing for the right things. But there are a few additional markers I would suggest, given her symptom presentation. With your permission, I can speak to Dr. Patterson about adding them." "What kind of markers?" "Cardiac enzymes, thyroid function, a few others. Probably nothing, but better to rule things out now than catch them later." The clinical language couldn't quite mask the urgency underneath. Ethan stood up, moving closer to her. "Lena, I need you to be straight with me. What are you worried about?" She hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "I'm not worried yet. I'm being careful. There's a difference. But some of Mia's symptoms, the pattern of them, they remind me of cases I've seen before. Cases that got missed initially because the symptoms seemed minor, until they weren't." Fear crystallized in his gut. "What kind of cases?" "Let me talk to Dr. Patterson first. Get the additional tests ordered. Then we'll know more, and I can give you actual information instead of possibilities, okay?" It wasn't okay, not even close. But he nodded, because what else could he do? Lena squeezed his arm gently. "I'm going to take care of this, I promise." Then she was gone, moving with purpose down the corridor. Ethan sank back into the chair, feeling like the ground beneath him was turning to water. Mia stirred, her eyes opening slowly. "Dad? Right here, sweetheart." Who was that lady? "A friend, a doctor. She's going to help make sure they figure out what's going on with you." "She seemed nice and pretty. Is she the lady from last night?" Despite everything, Ethan felt his mouth twitch. "Yeah, actually, that's her." "Cool." Mia's eyes drifted closed again. "I'm glad you helped her. Maybe now she can help us." Ethan held his daughter's hand and prayed that was true. 20 minutes later, Lena returned with Dr. Patterson. The two women had clearly been in intense discussion. Dr. Patterson looked both impressed and slightly irritated in the way doctors got when a colleague spotted something they'd missed. "Mr. Cole," Dr. Patterson said, "Dr. Park has suggested some additional tests that I agree would be valuable. We're going to run them tonight so we have comprehensive results by morning." "Thank you," Ethan said, looking between them. Dr. Patterson's expression softened slightly. "Dr. Park is one of the best diagnosticians I've ever worked with. Mia's lucky she happened to be here." After Dr. Patterson left to order the tests, Lena lingered in the doorway. "You should go home," she said gently. "Get some rest. Nothing will happen tonight except monitoring." "I'm not leaving her." "I didn't think you would." A small smile. "But at least try to sleep in that torture device they call a chair." "Lena," he said, stopping her before she could leave. "Thank you for caring. You didn't have to get involved." "Yes, I did." She looked at Mia, sleeping peacefully now. "She's a child, and she's important to someone who was kind to me when I needed it. Of course I'm involved." After she left, Ethan settled back into the chair and tried to find a position that didn't make his back scream. Outside the window, Portland's lights glittered against the darkening sky. Somewhere in this building, Lena Park was reviewing test results and advocating for his daughter with the fierce competence of someone who'd found purpose again. He'd stopped for her in the rain less than 24 hours ago, expecting nothing in return. Now she was fighting for Mia like she was her own. Maybe, Ethan thought, as exhaustion finally pulled him under, kindness really did come back around. Not in some cosmic justice way, but in the simple, profound way that humans took care of each other when it mattered most. He fell asleep holding Mia's hand and dreamed of rain that washed things clean instead of drowning them. Morning came with the antiseptic smell of hospital corridors and the soft beeping of monitors that had become the soundtrack to Ethan's fitful sleep. He woke with his neck cramped at an impossible angle, still clutching Mia's hand. She was awake, watching cartoons on the mounted television with the sound turned low. "Morning, baby," he said, his voice rough. "You snore when you sleep in chairs," she informed him solemnly. "I'll add that to my list of flaws." A nurse entered with breakfast, bland oatmeal and orange juice that Mia eyed with deep suspicion. "Do I have to eat this?" "Hospital rules," the nurse said cheerfully, "but I might have hidden some brown sugar packets in there if you look carefully." After the nurse left, Mia picked at her breakfast while Ethan tried to smooth his wrinkled shirt and look like a functioning adult. His phone showed a dozen texts from Mrs. Chen, his clients, and even Rita from the diner, all checking in. Word traveled fast in their corner of Portland. Dr. Patterson arrived at 8 sharp, tablet in hand, with Lena following 2 steps behind. Ethan's heart kicked against his ribs at their expressions, serious, but not devastated. He'd learned to read doctors' faces during Sarah's difficult pregnancy, and this wasn't the look that preceded terrible news. "Good morning, Mia," Dr. Patterson said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Okay, I guess. Hungry for real food." "We'll work on that. First, I want to talk to you and your dad about what we found." Ethan stood, moving closer to Mia's bed. She reached for his hand immediately. Dr. Patterson pulled up a chair, putting herself at eye level with Mia. "So, we ran a lot of tests last night, and the good news is we figured out why you've been feeling dizzy and tired. You have something called anemia, which means your blood doesn't have enough of the good stuff it needs to carry oxygen around your body." "But is that bad?" Mia asked, her voice small. "It's treatable," Dr. Patterson said firmly. "We also found that your thyroid, that's a gland in your neck that controls a lot of important things, isn't working quite right. That's also fixable with medicine." "So I'm going to be okay?" "Absolutely. You'll need to take some pills every day and come back for checkups, but yes, you're going to be completely fine." The relief that flooded through Ethan nearly buckled his knees. He sat down hard on the edge of Mia's bed. "Thank you," he managed. "Thank you so much." Dr. Patterson smiled. "Thank Dr. Park. She's the one who caught the thyroid markers. I would have eventually, but she saved us time." Lena, who'd been standing quietly by the door, shook her head. "You would have found it this morning. I just had the advantage of extra coffee and insomnia." "Either way," Dr. Patterson continued, "we'll get Mia started on iron supplements and levothyroxine today. She'll need to stay one more night for observation to make sure she tolerates the medications well, but then she can go home." After Dr. Patterson left to arrange the prescriptions, Lena approached Mia's bedside. In daylight, Ethan could see the exhaustion etched around her eyes. She'd clearly been up most of the night reviewing results and consulting with the team. "Hey, Mia," Lena said gently. "I'm Dr. Park." "I know. Dad told me you helped him when he found you in the rain." Lena's eyes flicked to Ethan, surprised. "He did?" "Uh-huh. He said you were really sad and he bought you pie." "That's accurate, actually." A small smile touched Lena's lips. "Your dad's a good person." "I know that too. He's the best dad in the whole world." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Okay, that's enough testimonials. Dr. Park has other patients to see." But Lena was looking at Mia with an expression that made Ethan's chest ache, tenderness mixed with something that looked like grief. "Actually, I'm off shift now. I just wanted to make sure you knew what was happening before I left." "Are you coming back?" Mia asked. I'm not assigned to your case, sweetheart, but I'll check on you, okay?" "Promise?" Lena hesitated only a moment. "Promise." In the hallway, Ethan caught up with her as she was heading toward the elevators. "Lena, wait!" She turned, her professional mask slipping to show the bone-deep exhaustion underneath. "I don't know how to thank you," Ethan said. "You probably saved Mia from months of misdiagnosis and feeling terrible. I did my job. Any good doctor would have caught it. But you did catch it, and you didn't have to. You're not even officially on staff here." Lena looked away, something complicated crossing her face. "I'm trying to be. Portland General it's where I want to land if they'll have me. But my history makes that complicated." "What history?" She was quiet for a long moment, warring with herself. Finally, she sighed. "Can we get coffee? Real coffee, not hospital sludge?" They ended up at a cafe 2 blocks from the hospital, sitting in a corner booth with oversized mugs of dark roast. Lena wrapped her hands around hers, staring into it like it held answers. 2 years ago," she began, "I was a rising star in pediatric medicine. I had a position at Boston Children's Hospital, publications in major journals, a career trajectory that looked perfect on paper. What happened? I discovered that one of the senior surgeons on my team was performing unnecessary procedures on children for profit. Complicated surgeries that carried real risks, that these kids didn't need because their insurance would pay, and it padded his research funding. Ethan felt ice in his stomach. Jesus. I reported it through proper channels, filed complaints with the hospital ethics board, the state medical board. I had documentation, patient files, everything. Her voice went flat, and I was systematically destroyed for it. They didn't believe you. Oh, they believed me. But the surgeon in question had powerful friends, significant funding connections, and a reputation that made the hospital look good. So they chose to protect him and make me the problem. By the time the investigation was over, I'd been labeled as difficult, unstable, someone with boundary issues and poor judgment. No one would hire me. My professional reputation was in ruins. But you were right. Being right doesn't matter when the people you're accusing have more institutional power than you do. Bitterness crept into her voice. The surgeon got a slap on the wrist. I got blacklisted from every major hospital system on the East Coast. Ethan struggled to process this. So you came to Portland? Came here to start over. Thought maybe on the West Coast, far enough from Boston, I could rebuild. She laughed without humor. Turns out professional reputations travel faster than you'd think. I've been working urgent care shifts and picking up temp work at places desperate enough not to dig too deep into why an experienced pediatrician is available for bottom-tier positions. That's why you quit Mercy Heights. They found out about Boston, decided I was a liability. The administrator was polite about it, suggested I'd be happier somewhere else, that kind of thing. But the message was clear. So I've been bouncing between shifts, trying to prove I'm still competent, still worth the risk. The weight of it settled over Ethan, the injustice of someone being punished for doing the right thing, for protecting children who couldn't protect themselves. I'm sorry, he said. I don't even have words for how wrong that is. It is what it is. Lena took a long sip of coffee. But that's why last night mattered so much. Why I pushed for those extra tests. Because I know what it's like when doctors miss things, when institutional concerns override patient care. I couldn't let that happen to Mia. You barely know us. I know enough. I know you're a good father who picked up a stranger in the rain because you recognized pain. I know Mia deserves someone fighting for her who actually gives a damn. She met his eyes. And maybe I needed to remember that I'm still capable of being the doctor I trained to be, even if the system says I'm not. Ethan leaned back, studying her. Portland General would be lucky to have you. We'll see if they agree. I have an interview next week for a permanent position. If last night helps my case, maybe I have a shot. It should. Dr. Patterson clearly respects you. Dr. Patterson is young enough to still believe competence should matter more than politics. Lena's smile was wry. Give her 10 years. They sat in silence for a while, watching Portland wake up outside the cafe windows. People hurried past with coffee cups and briefcases, everyone locked in their own private dramas. Can I ask you something? Ethan said finally. Of course. When I found you at that bus stop, you said you just needed to sit somewhere that wasn't there, meaning the hospital? Lena nodded slowly. I'd just gotten called into the administrator's office. Very professional, very kind, very clear that my services were no longer needed. It was the third time in 6 months I'd been let go for reasons that had nothing to do with my medical skills. And I couldn't go home to my empty apartment and pretend I was okay. So I sat in the rain like an idiot and cried. Not like an idiot, like a human being who'd been treated unfairly. Maybe, she paused. I was in a dark place that night, Ethan, darker than I'd been in a long time, starting to think maybe everyone else was right, that I was the problem, that I should just give up and do something else with my life. But you didn't. No. Because a stranger stopped in the rain and treated me like I mattered, bought me pie and let me remember that kindness still exists. She looked at him directly. You helped me more than you know. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Recognition of a connection being forged from shared brokenness, from two people who'd been knocked down trying to figure out how to stand back up. I'm glad I stopped, he said quietly. Me too. His phone buzzed with a text from the hospital, Mia asking when he was coming back and if he could bring decent food. I should get back to her, he said, standing. Of course. Tell her I'll check on her this evening, like I promised. You don't have to. I know you're exhausted. I promised, Lena said simply, and I don't break promises to children. Walking back to the hospital, Ethan found himself thinking about the strange architecture of fate, how a rainy night, a broken woman at a bus stop, and a moment of hesitation before driving on had somehow led to his daughter getting the care she needed. If he'd driven past Lena that night, would Mia's condition have been caught in time? Would she have suffered for months while doctors ran the wrong tests? The thought made him dizzy. That evening, true to her word, Lena appeared in Mia's room with a small gift bag. "I come bearing contraband," she announced. "What's contraband?" Mia asked. "Things you're not supposed to have. In this case, chocolate chip cookies from the Good Bakery on Hawthorne." Mia's face lit up. "Really? I checked with your nurse. 2 cookies won't interfere with your treatment, and they're way better than hospital desserts." While Mia devoured the cookies, Lena reviewed her chart and vitals with the kind of thorough attention that made Ethan relax for the first time in 36 hours. She asked Mia questions about how she was feeling, explaining the medications in terms a 9-year-old could understand, and treated her like an intelligent person whose input mattered. "So I have to take pills forever?" Mia asked. "Maybe not forever, but probably for a long time. Your thyroid might start working better as you get older, or it might not. But the pills are tiny, easy to swallow, and once you get used to them, you won't even notice." "Will I have energy again? Like normal kid energy?" "Absolutely. Give it a couple weeks for the medications to build up in your system, and you should feel like yourself again. Maybe even better than before, since you've probably been dealing with this for a while without realizing it." "Can I still play dodgeball?" Lena smiled. "Yes, you can do everything you did before, only you won't get dizzy and tired doing it." After Lena left, Mia turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "I really like her, Dad." "Dr. Park?" "Yeah, she's pretty great." "No, I mean, I really like her. Like, for you." Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. "Mia, I'm just saying, she's smart and pretty and nice, and she brought me cookies, and she looks at you like you're interesting. She's a doctor. I'm a carpenter. We barely know each other. So? You could get to know each other more. Maybe take her on a date or something." "When did you become a relationship counselor?" "Since I noticed you've been alone for 2 years and you get this sad look sometimes when you think I'm not watching." Mia's voice went soft. "I want you to be happy, Dad. Not just okay. Happy." The words hit him like a physical blow. He sat on the edge of her bed, taking her hand. "I am happy, sweetheart. I have you. That's enough." "But what about when I grow up and move away? You'll be all alone." "That's a long time from now." "Still, you should have someone. Someone who makes you smile the way you smiled when Dr. Park walked in." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. The idea of opening himself up again, of trusting someone not to leave when things got hard, felt impossible. Sarah had taught him that love wasn't enough, that commitment could dissolve like sugar in water when the reality of family life set in. But then he thought about Lena at that bus stop, broken and crying, and how she'd pulled herself together to fight for Mia. He thought about her story, about choosing to do the right thing even when it cost her everything, and refusing to become bitter even when she had every right to be. "Maybe," a small voice whispered, "not everyone leaves." The next morning, Mia was discharged with a bag full of medications, a stack of follow-up appointment cards, and strict instructions about monitoring her symptoms. Ethan loaded her into his truck, grateful beyond words to be taking her home. Mrs. Chen had prepared their apartment like they were royalty returning from war. Fresh flowers on the table, Mia's favorite soup simmering on the stove, and the living room rearranged so Mia could rest on the couch with a clear view of the television. "You didn't have to do all this?" Ethan said, overwhelmed. "Of course I did. This is what neighbors do." Mrs. Chen fussed over Mia, getting her settled with blankets and pillows. "You rest now, little one. Build your strength back up." Over the next week, they settled into a new routine. Mia took her medications with breakfast and dinner, and Ethan watched her like a hawk for any signs of problems. Slowly, color returned to her cheeks. She had more energy, complained less about being tired, and started pestering him about when she could go back to school. "Monday," he told her for the 3rd time. Dr. Patterson said Monday. But I feel fine now. Monday. She grumbled but accepted it, returning her attention to the book she was reading. Ethan tried to focus on work, catching up on the commissions that had piled up during Mia's hospital stay. But his mind kept wandering to Lena Park. He wondered how her interview at Portland General had gone, whether she'd gotten the position, whether she thought about them at all, or if they'd just been a brief intersection in her complicated journey. He was in his workshop, hand sanding a table leg, when his phone rang. Hello? Ethan, it's Lena. His heart did something complicated. Hey, how are you? Good. Better, actually. I got the job at Portland General, permanent position in pediatrics, starting next week. That's amazing. Congratulations. Thank you. I wanted to tell you because you were part of why they hired me. Dr. Patterson wrote a letter of recommendation highlighting Mia's case and how I collaborated with the team. It made the difference. I'm so glad. There was a pause filled with the weight of things unsaid. I also wanted to ask, Lena continued, her voice careful, how Mia's doing, professionally and personally. She's great, getting stronger every day, driving me crazy wanting to go back to school. That's a good sign. Another pause. And how are you? Me? I'm fine. Back to work, catching up on everything I missed. Ethan, her voice was gentle. I'm asking how you really are. You spent 48 hours terrified for your daughter. That doesn't just go away. He set down his sandpaper, surprised by the question. When was the last time someone had asked about him and actually wanted to know? Honestly, I'm still processing it. Every time I look at Mia, I think about how differently this could have gone. If you hadn't been there, if those tests hadn't been run, but I was there. They were run. She's okay. Because of you. Because of timing and luck and a medical system that occasionally gets it right. She paused. Listen, I know this is forward, but I still owe you that coffee. Are you free Saturday afternoon? Saturday was 3 days away. Ethan's mind raced through his schedule. Mia would be at a birthday party from 2 to 5, giving him a rare few hours of free time. Yeah, actually, I am. Good. There's a farmer's market near the waterfront. Meet me there at 2? Okay. After he hung up, Ethan stood in his workshop, surrounded by sawdust and half-finished furniture, and let himself smile. Mia was right. He did look different when he thought about Lena. Less guarded. Less alone. Saturday arrived with unseasonably warm weather, Portland's gift before winter fully settled in. Ethan dropped Mia at her friend's house, endured her knowing smirk when he mentioned he had plans, and headed downtown. The farmer's market sprawled along the waterfront, vendor stalls selling everything from organic vegetables to handmade jewelry. He found Lena at a coffee stand, 2 cups already in hand. I guessed on your order, she said, offering him one. Black with 1 sugar? Perfect. Good memory. They wandered through the market, falling into easy conversation. Lena talked about starting her new position, her excitement mixed with nervousness about proving herself. Ethan told her about Mia's improved energy, how she'd already reorganized her room twice out of sheer restlessness. She takes after you, Lena observed, that need to create order from chaos. Maybe. Or maybe she's just 9 and bored. They stopped at a booth selling handmade wooden puzzles, and Ethan couldn't help examining the craftsmanship. You're judging the joints, aren't you? Lena asked, amused. Can't help it. Occupational hazard. Would you make it differently? Probably, but that's true of most woodwork I see. Every carpenter has their own standards. Lena picked up a small puzzle box, testing the sliding mechanism. Do you ever make things just for fun, not for clients? Sometimes, when I have time, which isn't often. What would you make if you could make anything? The question caught him off guard. I don't know. I used to have ideas, elaborate pieces, artistic stuff, but after Mia was born, everything became about utility and income. I lost track of making things just because they're beautiful. That's sad. That's reality. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Lena set the puzzle box down. Maybe you should make something just for yourself. Remember why you started in the first place. They continued walking, and Ethan found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. He told her about Sarah leaving, about the guilt of working too much, and the constant fear that he wasn't enough for Mia on his own. "You're more than enough," Lena said firmly. "I see dozens of parents in the hospital. I can tell within 5 minutes which ones truly put their children first. You're one of them." "How can you tell?" "The way you held Mia's hand the entire time. How you noticed every monitor change, every shift in her breathing. How you asked questions not to challenge us, but to understand what was happening to your daughter." She paused. "And the fact that you picked up a stranger in the rain, even though it made you late getting home to her, that says everything about your priorities." Her words settled into a hollow place he'd been carrying. "Thank you for saying that. I'm just telling you what's true." They ended up on a bench overlooking the Willamette River, watching boats cut through water that reflected the autumn sky. Lena was quiet for a while, her expression thoughtful. "Can I tell you something?" she asked finally. "Always. When I saw Mia in that hospital bed, something shifted in me. I'd been going through the motions for months, doing the work but feeling disconnected from why it mattered. But fighting for her, making sure she got the right diagnosis, it reminded me why I became a doctor in the first place. To help kids. To help kids that the system might overlook. Kids whose parents don't have the resources or knowledge to advocate for them. Kids like the ones that surgeon used for profit." Her voice hardened. "I became a doctor because I believe children deserve fierce protection. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that my career setback didn't change that calling." "So what changed?" "You did. Mia did." She turned to face him. "You showed me that kindness still exists, that people still do the right thing just because it's right. And Mia reminded me what I'm fighting for. Not institutional approval or professional redemption, just kids who need someone in their corner." Ethan felt the space between them charged with something he couldn't quite name. "I'm glad we could help." "You did more than help. You gave me purpose back." The moment stretched, intimate and fragile. Then Lena's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. She checked it and made a face. "Hospital, they have a question about a case I consulted on." "Duty calls." "Unfortunately." She stood, then hesitated. "Ethan, can we do this again? Not just coffee, but talking, being honest with each other." "I'd like that." "Good, because I enjoy this. You, being around someone who doesn't want anything from me except honesty." After she left, Ethan sat by the river for a while longer, feeling the cautious unfurling of something he'd thought was dead. Hope, maybe. Or just the willingness to believe that not every connection led to abandonment. He picked up Mia from the birthday party to find her wired on sugar and excitement. "How was it?" he asked. "Amazing. We had a piñata and face painting, and Emma's mom made a cake shaped like a unicorn." She paused for breath. "How was your thing?" "My thing?" "Your date with Dr. Park." "It wasn't a date. It was coffee." "At the farmer's market. That sounds like a date." Ethan sighed. "When did you get so observant?" "I've always been observant. You just don't notice because you're busy being all responsible and parental." Despite himself, he laughed. "Fair point. So are you going to see her again?" "Probably. She's nice to talk to." "Good." Mia settled back in her seat, satisfied. "I approve." "Oh, you approve? Well, that's a relief." "I'm just saying, if you're going to date someone, she should be smart and nice and good at her job. Dr. Park is all those things. Plus, she brought me cookies." "So cookies are the standard now?" "Cookies are always the standard, Dad." That night, after Mia was asleep, Ethan stood in his workshop and looked at the raw piece of walnut he'd been saving for something special. Lena's words echoed in his mind, about making things just because they're beautiful, about remembering why he started. He picked up his pencil and began to sketch. Not a commission, not something practical, just an idea taking shape on paper. A small jewelry box with intricate inlay work, the kind of thing that required patience and precision and love. Maybe, he thought, it was time to remember how to create something meaningful again. In wood. And in life. The design took shape under his hands, delicate and complex. And for the first time in 2 years, Ethan Cole felt like he was building towards something instead of just surviving. The jewelry box took shape over the following weeks, growing more intricate with each evening Ethan spent in his workshop after Mia went to bed. The walnut revealed its character slowly. dark grain swirling through honey-colored wood, patterns that looked almost deliberate in their beauty. He was inlaying maple strips in a geometric pattern when his phone rang with Lena's number. "Hey," he answered, wedging the phone against his shoulder while he cleaned his hands. "Are you busy?" Her voice sounded tight, strained in a way that sent alarm through him. "Not really, just working. What's wrong?" "I need—" She stopped, and he heard her take a shaky breath. "Can I come over? I know it's late, but I really need to not be alone right now." Ethan glanced at the clock. 9:30. Mia had been asleep for an hour, and Mrs. Chen was right next door if needed. "Of course. You remember the address." "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She arrived in 18, her car pulling up with the kind of aggressive parking that spoke of frayed nerves. Ethan met her at the door, taking in her appearance with growing concern. She was still in her work clothes, but her hair was disheveled, her eyes red-rimmed, and her hand shook as she gripped her bag. "Come in," he said quietly, stepping aside. His apartment was small but carefully maintained, the kind of space where every item earned its place through necessity or meaning. Mia's artwork covered one wall, a gallery of her evolving talent. His woodworking books lined simple shelves he'd built himself. The furniture was mismatched but sturdy, collected over years of careful thrift store hunting. Lena stood in the middle of the living room, looking lost. "Sit," Ethan said gently, guiding her to the couch. "I'll make tea." "I don't want to impose." "You're not imposing. Sit." While the kettle heated, he watched her from the kitchen. She'd curled into the corner of the couch, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. Whatever had happened had shaken her badly. He brought 2 mugs of chamomile tea and sat in the armchair across from her, giving her space. "Tell me what happened," he said. Lena's hands wrapped around the mug, seeking its warmth. "There was a case today. A 7-year-old boy brought in by his mother with what she said was a persistent cough. But when I examined him, I found bruising in patterns that don't come from normal childhood accidents. Old bruises, new bruises, some partially healed." Ethan's stomach clenched. "Abuse. Clear indicators of it. So I followed protocol, documented everything, called in a social worker, filed a report with Child Protective Services. The mother became defensive, denied everything, said I was seeing problems where there weren't any. But I've seen this before. I know what intentional harm looks like." "You did the right thing." "The hospital administration doesn't agree." Her voice went bitter. "The mother is connected. Her husband is some kind of tech executive with money and lawyers. She filed a formal complaint against me before she even left the building. Claimed I was biased, overzealous, that I was projecting my own issues onto her family." "That's bullshit." "Maybe, but it doesn't matter. I got called into my supervisor's office this evening. Very polite, very careful, but the message was clear. I'm too new, too probationary to be making waves. They suggested I might have been too quick to judgment, that I should have consulted more senior physicians before filing the report." Ethan felt anger kindle in his chest. "They wanted you to ignore a child being hurt. They wanted me to be more political about it, to consider the optics, the potential liability, the donor relationships." She set down her tea with trembling hands. "It's Boston all over again. Do the right thing, get punished for it. Protect children, lose your career." "Did they fire you?" "Not yet, but they put a note in my file about exercising better judgment and working within established hierarchies, which is code for keep your head down and don't make powerful people uncomfortable, no matter what you see." The exhaustion and defeat in her voice broke something in him. Ethan moved from the chair to sit beside her on the couch, close enough to offer comfort, but not crowding her. "Lena, look at me." She turned, and the fear in her eyes gutted him. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do," he said firmly. "You protected a child who couldn't protect himself. That's not overzealous or biased. That's being a good doctor and a decent human being. But if they fire me, then they fire you, and you find somewhere that deserves you. But you don't compromise on this, not on kids' safety, because the second you do, you become what you fought against in Boston." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm so tired of fighting, of being punished for caring, of watching institutions protect themselves instead of the vulnerable people they're supposed to serve. I know. He took her hand, feeling how cold it was. But if you stop fighting, who's going to protect those kids? Who's going to be the doctor who actually sees them, who notices what everyone else wants to ignore? Someone else. Someone who hasn't already been destroyed by the system. Bullshit. There is no one else. There's just you, standing in the gap between children and the people who hurt them. And yeah, that's exhausting and thankless, and it might cost you everything, but you're still the only one willing to stand there. She leaned into him then, her head against his shoulder, and he wrapped his arms around her while she cried. Not the quiet, dignified tears of someone trying to maintain composure, but the raw, gasping sobs of someone who'd been holding it together too long. He held her and didn't say anything, because there was nothing to say that would make it better. Sometimes the world was unjust and cruel, and all you could do was bear witness to someone's pain and remind them they weren't alone in it. Eventually, her crying slowed. She pulled back, wiping at her face with the heel of her hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "I got tears all over your shirt. It'll dry, and you don't need to apologize for having feelings about something that matters." She managed a watery smile. "You're good at this." "At what?" "At making people feel less alone." "I've had practice. Mia has strong feelings about everything. I've learned to just be present for them." Lena glanced toward the hallway where Mia's room was. "Is she asleep?" "Has been for a while. Want to see something?" He led her to his workshop, flicking on the overhead light to reveal his current projects. The jewelry box sat on his main workbench, nearly complete. "You made this?" Lena approached it carefully, running her fingers over the inlay work. "Still working on it, but yeah. It's beautiful. The detail is incredible. You told me I should make something just for myself, so I am." She looked up at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "For yourself or for someone else?" Heat crept up his neck. "I haven't decided yet." The corner of her mouth lifted. "Well, whoever ends up with it is very lucky." They stood there in the comfortable quiet of his workshop, surrounded by the smell of wood and linseed oil, and Ethan felt the weight of the moment, how natural it felt to have her here, in his space, sharing the things that mattered to him. "Thank you for letting me fall apart on your couch," Lena said quietly. "Any time, I mean that literally. Anytime you need somewhere to fall apart safely, my couch is available." "That's a dangerous offer. I might take you up on it regularly." "Good." She turned to face him fully, and the air between them shifted into something charged and uncertain. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "I'm not good at this. At letting people in, at trusting that they'll stay. Every time I've been vulnerable, every time I've cared about something enough to fight for it, I've been punished for it. So I've gotten very good at keeping people at a distance." "I understand that. But I don't want to keep you at a distance, and that terrifies me because you have the power to hurt me in ways the hospital never could." His throat went tight. "I don't want to hurt you." "I know, but intention and reality are different things. People hurt each other all the time without meaning to." "So what are you saying?" She took a breath. "I'm saying that despite my better judgment, despite every instinct telling me to protect myself, I'm choosing to trust you. To believe that maybe not everyone leaves. But I need you to be honest with me. Is this something you want? Actually want? Not just something you're doing to be nice?" Ethan thought about the easy answer, the safe one that wouldn't risk anything. Then he thought about Mia's words, about being happy instead of just okay, and about Lena's courage in standing up for what was right, even when it cost her everything. "I want this," he said. "I want to know you better, to spend time with you, to see where this goes. And that scares me too, because the last time I trusted someone with my heart, she decided it wasn't enough and left. But I'm choosing to try anyway." "Why?" "Because you're worth the risk. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be more than just a father or a carpenter. You see me, actually see me. And I think I see you too, not the doctor or the professional reputation, but the person who fights for kids even when it destroys her, who sits in the rain when she's broken, who brings cookies to sick children she barely knows. That person is worth taking a chance on." Lena's eyes were bright. "You really believe that?" "Yes." She moved closer, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her dark eyes. Can I kiss you? His heart kicked hard. Please. The kiss was gentle, tentative, both of them testing the waters of something that felt fragile and important. When they pulled apart, Lena was smiling. That was nice, she said. Yeah, it was. A sound from the hallway made them both freeze. Mia stood there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Dad? I heard voices. Ethan felt like a teenager caught by his parents. Hey, baby, Dr. Park just stopped by to talk about some work stuff. Did we wake you? Mia looked between them with the shrewd assessment of a 9-year-old who knew exactly what she'd interrupted. Uh-huh. Work stuff, sure. Lena laughed, a genuine sound of delight. Hi, Mia. I'm sorry we disturbed you. It's okay. Mia patted into the workshop, inspecting the jewelry box. Wow, Dad, this is really pretty. Thanks, sweetheart. Is it for Dr. Park? Mia, Ethan said, mortified. But Lena just smiled. Maybe it is. Your dad's very talented. I know. He makes the best stuff. Mia yawned. Can I have water? I'll get it, Lena offered, and headed to the kitchen like she'd been there 100 times. Alone with his daughter, Ethan braced for the interrogation. So you're dating her now? Mia asked, cutting straight to it. We're seeing where things go. That's a yes. It's complicated. No, it's not. You like her, she likes you, you kiss in the workshop. That's pretty straightforward. Since when are you an expert on relationships? Since I have eyes and a brain. She accepted the water from Lena with a thank you. I like you, she told Lena directly. You're good for Dad. He smiles more when you're around. Lena crouched to Mia's eye level. I like you too. You're smart and observant, and you clearly take excellent care of your dad. Someone has to. He works too much and forgets to eat. I'm standing right here, Ethan protested. We know, they said in unison, then looked at each other and laughed. After getting Mia back to bed, Ethan walked Lena to her car. I'm sorry about that, he said. Mia has no filter. Don't apologize. She's wonderful. You've raised an incredible kid. I'm trying. Lena leaned against her car, looking up at him. So, we're really doing this? Trying the whole dating thing? If you want to. I want to, but I need you to understand my life is messy right now. The job situation is unstable. I'm still dealing with the fallout from Boston, and I come with a lot of baggage. I'm a single father with trust issues and a teenage-level income. I'm not exactly a prize either. You're absolutely a prize. Don't sell yourself short. She took his hand. Let's just agree to be honest with each other. About what we want, what we're afraid of, what we need. Deal. She kissed him again, softer this time, like a promise. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving him standing in the cool night air feeling like the ground had shifted beneath his feet. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Lena's schedule at the hospital was unpredictable, but she made time when she could, coffee dates before her shift, late dinners after Mia went to bed, weekend afternoons at parks where Mia could play while they talked. She integrated into their lives carefully, respecting boundaries, never pushing to move faster than Ethan was comfortable with. Mia adored her, which both warmed and terrified Ethan. He'd worried about introducing someone new into his daughter's life, afraid of her getting attached and then being hurt if things didn't work out. But Lena was thoughtful about it, clear with Mia that she wasn't trying to replace anyone, just adding to the family in whatever way felt right. She gets it, Mrs. Chen observed one Saturday morning when she stopped by with homemade dumplings. That girl understands what it means to love carefully. We're taking it slow, Ethan said. Slow is smart, but don't take so slow you forget to actually live. She patted his cheek with surprising force. You deserve happiness, Ethan. Stop being afraid of it. At work, Lena's situation remained tense. The complaint against her was officially dismissed after the investigation confirmed her assessment had been correct. The boy did have injuries consistent with abuse, but the damage to her standing was done. Other staff members started treating her with cautious distance, wary of being associated with someone marked as problematic. They're afraid, she told Ethan one evening, curled against him on the couch while a movie played unwatched. Afraid that standing with me means they'll be targeted too. And I get it, I really do. Everyone's trying to protect their own careers. But it still hurts. Yeah, it does. Have you thought about what you'll do if they let you go? She was quiet for a long moment. There's a community health clinic in Southeast that's been trying to recruit me. The pay is terrible, the facility is outdated, and they can barely afford supplies. But they serve populations that have no other access to care. Immigrants, unhoused families, people without insurance. That sounds like your kind of place. It does, doesn't it? She smiled against his shoulder. Maybe the universe is pushing me toward where I'm actually supposed to be instead of where I thought I should be. Maybe. Would you think less of me if I left Portland General? If I gave up on the prestigious position and took something that looks like a step backward? Ethan turned to look at her directly. I would think you're someone who prioritizes purpose over prestige, which is exactly who I've always thought you were. Her eyes went bright. How do you always know the right thing to say? I don't. I just tell you the truth. She kissed him, and the movie continued unwatched. In early December, Mia's school held a winter concert. Ethan had promised to be there, but a client emergency had him running late. He texted Lena in desperation, and she left work early to hold his seat. He arrived just as the performance started, slipping into the auditorium to find Lena in the third row, her phone recording Mia's class on stage. When she saw him, she smiled and shifted to make room. Mia spotted them both, and her whole face lit up. She sang her part with everything she had, her voice occasionally wandering off key, but compensating with pure enthusiasm. Afterward, she bounded off the stage and launched herself at both of them. You both came! Of course we did, Lena said. You were amazing. I messed up the second verse. I didn't notice. I was too impressed by your stage presence. Other parents filtered past, some offering polite smiles, others doing double takes at seeing Ethan with a woman. He felt Lena stiffen slightly beside him, aware of being observed, judged, categorized. Ignore them, he murmured. I'm trying. One of Mia's teachers approached, the one who'd helped during Mia's medical crisis. Mr. Cole, wonderful to see Mia looking so healthy. And you must be Dr. Park? Mia talks about you constantly. All good things, I hope, Lena said. The very best. She thinks you hung the moon. After they left, heading to get celebratory ice cream despite the winter cold, Mia walked between them, holding both their hands. People were looking at us, she observed. People are nosy, Ethan said. I don't care. I like when we're all together. It feels right. Lena squeezed her hand. It does, doesn't it? That night, after Mia was asleep and Lena had stayed for tea, Ethan finished the jewelry box. The final coat of finish went on smooth, highlighting every detail of the inlay work. It was the best thing he'd made in years, maybe ever. Lena watched him work, perched on a stool in his workshop. It's really beautiful, Ethan. I want you to have it, he said, not looking up from his careful brushwork. You made it for me. I made it for myself to remember how to create something meaningful. But yeah, it's yours, if you want it. She slid off the stool and came to stand beside him. Of course I want it. It's not done yet, needs a few days to cure, but then it's yours. She turned his face toward her, fingers gentle on his jaw. Thank you. For this, for everything. For reminding me that good people still exist. Right back at you. They stood there in the quiet workshop, surrounded by the evidence of creation and care. And Ethan felt something settle in his chest. Not the wild rush of new love, but something steadier, the recognition that he'd found someone who understood what it meant to build something worth keeping. The illusion shattered a week later. Ethan was dropping off a finished commission when his phone rang with an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Is this Ethan Cole? A woman's voice, cultured and cold. Yes. Who is this? My name is Margaret Whitfield. I'm calling regarding Dr. Lena Park. Warning bells went off immediately. What about her? I understand you've been seeing her socially. I wanted to make you aware of some facts about her professional history that she may not have disclosed. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. I'm not interested in gossip. This isn't gossip, Mr. Cole. It's documented fact. Dr. Park was dismissed from Boston Children's Hospital for making false accusations against a respected surgeon. She has a pattern of seeing abuse where none exists, of pursuing personal vendettas against colleagues, and of creating chaos in every institution that's tried to help her. That's not true. It's absolutely true. You can verify it yourself. I'm calling as a courtesy, parent to parent, because I understand you have a young daughter. Dr. Park filed a completely baseless report regarding my son, traumatizing him with invasive examinations and interviews, all because she projected her own psychological issues onto our family. I would hate to see another child subjected to her instability. The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen, the woman's words echoing in his head. He knew it was manipulation, knew Lena had told him the truth about Boston, about standing up to corruption and being punished for it. But doubt crept in anyway, insidious and poisonous. What if there was more to the story? What if Lena's version was incomplete, edited to make herself look better? What if she really did have issues with boundaries and judgment? He thought about Mia, about how attached she'd become to Lena, about what it would mean if Lena's past caught up with her and destroyed the fragile stability they'd built. The thoughts festered all day, growing darker with each hour. By the time Lena called that evening, he was wound tight with anxiety and doubt. "Hey," she said, her voice warm. "How was your day?" "Fine. Busy." A pause. "You okay? You sound off." "Yeah, I'm just tired. Want me to come over? I can bring dinner." "Actually, Lena, I think we need to talk." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Okay, that sounds ominous. Can you come over after Mia's asleep?" "Of course. I'll be there at 9. She arrived exactly on time, concern written all over her face. Ethan had spent the intervening hours trying to figure out what to say, how to voice his fears without accusing her of anything. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting on the edge of the couch like she might need to run. "I got a call today. From Margaret Whitfield." Lena's face went white. "What did she say?" "That you have a history of false accusations, that you see abuse where there isn't any, that Boston wasn't about you being a whistleblower, but about you being unstable." "And you believed her?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I can see it on your face." Her voice shook. "You're doubting me, doubting everything I told you. I'm just trying to understand the whole picture." "The whole picture?" Lena stood abruptly. "The whole picture is that I reported a surgeon for unnecessary surgeries on children, and I was systematically destroyed for it. The whole picture is that Margaret Whitfield's son had injuries consistent with physical abuse, and instead of protecting him, she's using her money and connections to silence anyone who tries to help him. That's the whole picture, Ethan." "How do I know that's true? How do I know you're not what? Crazy? Vindictive? Making it all up for attention?" Tears spilled down her face. "I told you my story. I was vulnerable with you. I trusted you with the worst thing that ever happened to me. And at the first challenge, you're believing a stranger over me." "I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just scared, Lena. Scared of what this could mean for Mia if your past catches up with us." "If my past catches up with us," she repeated hollowly. "So we're us when it's convenient, but the second things get complicated, I'm a liability you need to protect Mia from?" "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is being punished over and over for doing the right thing. What's not fair is finally finding someone I thought understood, someone I thought I could trust, only to discover that he's just like everyone else, willing to throw me away the second it costs him something." "Lena, I should go." She grabbed her bag with shaking hands. "Thank you for making it clear where I stand." "Please, let's just talk about this." "We are talking about it. You're telling me you believe I might be unstable. You're telling me you're willing to question everything about who I am based on one phone call from someone with every reason to lie. What else is there to say?" She was at the door before he could form a response. When she turned back, her expression was devastated. "I thought you were different," she said quietly. "I thought you saw me. But you just see the liability, the risk, the potential problem, just like everyone else." Then she was gone, the door closing with devastating finality. Ethan stood in the silence of his apartment, the weight of what he'd done crushing down on him. He'd let fear override trust. He'd chosen protection over faith. And in doing so, he'd become exactly what Lena had been afraid he'd be, someone who left when things got hard. He sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands, already knowing it was too late to take it back. The apartment felt hollow after Lena left, like all the air had been sucked out through the closed door. Ethan sat on the couch, staring at nothing, replaying the conversation in his head, each repetition making him feel worse. The look on her face when she'd said, "I thought you were different," was seared into his memory. He barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lena at the bus stop in the rain, broken and alone, and realized he'd just put her right back in that place. At 3 in the morning, he got up and went to his workshop, turning the finished jewelry box over in his hands. The piece he'd made for her, the symbol of choosing to create something beautiful again, now felt like evidence of his own cowardice. Mrs. Chen noticed something was wrong immediately when she came by the next morning. "Where's your lady friend?" she asked, setting down a container of soup. "We had a disagreement." "What kind of disagreement?" Ethan told her, the words tasting like ash. When he finished, Mrs. Chen looked at him with profound disappointment. "You're a fool," she said flatly. "I know." "No, I don't think you do. That woman saved your daughter's life. She fought for Mia when she had no reason to, when it would have been easier to look away. And the first time someone challenges you, you doubt her?" "I was trying to protect Mia." "From what?" "From someone who cares about her. From someone who understands what it means to sacrifice for what's right." Mrs. Chen shook her head. "You're not protecting Mia. You're protecting yourself from being hurt again. And you just hurt that poor girl in the process." The truth of it hit him like a physical blow. "What do I do?" "You apologize. You grovel. You prove to her that you're worth the risk she took on you." She paused. "But first you figure out why you sabotaged something good. Because until you understand that, you'll just keep doing it." After she left, Ethan sat with her words. She was right. He'd been so afraid of Lena leaving eventually that he'd pushed her away first, created a self-fulfilling prophecy of abandonment. Sarah's departure had taught him that people leave, so he'd found a way to make Lena leave before she could do it on her own terms. The realization made him sick. Mia came out for breakfast, still sleepy, and immediately sensed something wrong. "Where's Lena?" "She's not coming over today, baby." "Why not?" "Because Dad made a mistake and hurt her feelings." Mia's expression hardened in a way that reminded him painfully of Sarah. "What kind of mistake?" He told her an age-appropriate version, that someone had said mean things about Lena, and instead of trusting what he knew about her, he'd let the mean things make him doubt. "That's really dumb, Dad," Mia said, her voice cold in a way he'd never heard before. "I know. Lena is the best person ever. She helped me when I was sick. She makes you happy. She brought me cookies and explains things like I'm smart enough to understand them. And you believed some stranger instead of her?" "I was scared." "So? Being scared doesn't mean you get to hurt people." Tears welled in Mia's eyes. "I liked having her around. I liked feeling like maybe we could be a real family again. And you ruined it." She stormed back to her room and slammed the door. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, the weight of his daughter's disappointment crushing him. He'd failed them both, Lena and Mia, because he'd been too afraid to trust something good. He tried calling Lena. The phone rang through to voicemail. He texted. No response. By the third day, he realized she was actively avoiding him, and he couldn't blame her. Work became his refuge, the only place where he could focus on something other than the mess he'd made. He threw himself into commissions with manic energy, working until exhaustion made thought impossible. But even woodworking couldn't fully distract him. Every time he looked at the jewelry box, guilt twisted in his gut. Rita at the diner noticed the change immediately when he came in for coffee. "You look terrible," she observed, pouring without asking. "Thanks, Rita." "Where's your doctor friend? Haven't seen her around." "We're not seeing each other anymore." "Whose fault?" "Mine." Rita nodded like this confirmed something she'd suspected. "You going to fix it?" "I don't know if I can. I don't know if she'll even talk to me." "Then you better figure out how to make her listen. Because, honey, I've been serving coffee in this city for 40 years, and I can tell you, women like that don't come around often. You let her go, you'll regret it the rest of your life." That evening, Ethan did something he hadn't done in years. He called his brother David, who lived in Seattle with his wife and 3 kids, and had always been the one who understood emotions better. "Little brother," David answered, surprise in his voice. "This is unexpected. I messed up." okay? What kind of mess are we talking? Ethan explained everything. Meeting Lena, falling for her, the phone call from Margaret Whitfield, his doubt, Lena's devastated face when she left. David was quiet for a long moment after he finished. You're an idiot. Everyone keeps telling me that. Because it's true. Ethan, I watched what Sarah did to you. I saw how it broke something in you when she left. But you can't let that fear control the rest of your life. I'm not. Yes, you are. You found someone who made you happy, someone Mia loved, someone who fit into your lives like she'd always been there. And the second it got scary, you blew it up because at least that way you controlled when it ended. Ethan closed his eyes. So what do I do? You prove to her that you trust her, not with words. Words are cheap. With actions. You show her that you choose her, that you believe in her, that you're not going anywhere even when things get hard. I don't know how to do that. Then figure it out. Because from what you've told me, she's already been abandoned by everyone else. She doesn't need you to be one more person who gave up on her. After they hung up, Ethan sat in the dark apartment trying to think. How did you prove trust to someone you'd already betrayed? How did you show someone you believed in them after demonstrating exactly the opposite? The answer came from an unexpected source. The next morning, Dr. Patterson called his cell phone. Mr. Cole, this is Dr. Patterson from Portland General. Do you have a minute? Of course. Is something wrong with Mia's follow-up? No, Mia's fine. I'm actually calling about Dr. Park. She paused. I know it's unusual, but I'm aware you two are seeing each other, and I thought you should know what's happening. Ethan's heart kicked. What's happening? She resigned from Portland General yesterday, effective immediately. What? Why? There was another incident. Another wealthy family complained about her being too aggressive in her assessment of potential abuse. Administration gave her an ultimatum: back off or face termination. She quit instead. Where is she now? She took a position at the community health clinic in Southeast, Riverside Health. The pay is a fraction of what she made here. The facility is barely functional, but it's where she can actually practice medicine the way she believes it should be practiced. Why are you telling me this? Dr. Patterson's voice softened. Because Dr. Park is one of the best physicians I've ever worked with. She sees things other doctors miss. She fights for patients who have no one else fighting for them. And she's been walking around here for the past week looking absolutely shattered. I don't know what happened between you two, but if there's any way to fix it, you should try. We need more doctors like her in the world, and she needs people in her life who understand what that calling costs. After she hung up, Ethan sat with this new information. Lena had walked away from prestige and security to work somewhere she could actually make a difference. She'd chosen purpose over comfort, chosen to keep fighting even after everything that had happened, and he'd accused her of being unstable. The shame was overwhelming. He drove to Riverside Health that afternoon, a clinic in a converted storefront with peeling paint and bars on the windows. The waiting room was packed, families speaking Spanish and Vietnamese and languages he couldn't identify, children playing on worn furniture, people who clearly had nowhere else to go for medical care. The receptionist looked harried. Can I help you? I'm looking for Dr. Park. Lena Park. She's with a patient. You'll need to wait. Ethan waited for 2 hours, watching the clinic's organized chaos. Nurses moved with efficient grace, volunteers helped with translation, and through it all he caught glimpses of Lena, focused, professional, giving every patient her complete attention regardless of how packed the waiting room was. Finally, she emerged from an exam room with a mother and small child, explaining something in slow, careful English. When she looked up and saw him, she froze. Ethan, what are you doing here? Can we talk? I'm working. Please, just 5 minutes. She looked at the receptionist, who waved her away. Take your break, we can manage. Outside on the cracked sidewalk, Lena crossed her arms defensively. What do you want? To apologize. To explain. To beg you to forgive me for being an idiot. You doubted me, Ethan. At the first sign of trouble, you believed a stranger over me. I know, and I have no excuse for that except that I was terrified. He took a breath. Sarah leaving destroyed something in me. She made me believe that people always leave, that trusting someone just gives them the power to hurt you. And when Whitfield called, all that fear came rushing back. I convinced myself it was about protecting Mia, but really, I was protecting myself from being abandoned again. So you abandoned me first. Yes, and I hate myself for it. Lena, you told me your story. You showed me who you are, someone who fights for what's right, even when it costs everything. I know that's true. I've seen it with Mia, seen it in how you practice medicine, seen it in every choice you make. I should have trusted that. I should have trusted you. But you didn't. No, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. She looked away, jaw tight. Do you know what it's like to be constantly doubted? To do everything right and still be treated like you're the problem? I've been dealing with that for 2 years. I thought with you, it would be different. I thought you saw past the professional mess to who I actually am. I do see you. No, you see what you want to see. When it's convenient, when it doesn't challenge you, then you see me. But the second it gets hard, you see the liability, the risk, the potential problem. That's not true anymore. How am I supposed to believe that? How do I know you won't doubt me again the next time someone says something, the next time my past catches up with us? Ethan stepped closer, his voice urgent. Because I understand now what I was doing. I was so afraid of being hurt that I hurt you first. But I don't want to live like that. I don't want fear to keep me from the best thing that's happened to me in years. I can't be with someone who doesn't trust me, Ethan. I can't spend my life proving myself to you the way I've had to prove myself to everyone else. You shouldn't have to, and I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I'm different than I was a week ago, that I learned something, that I choose you, not fear. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't know if I can. You broke something when you doubted me. I don't know if it can be fixed. Then let me try, please. I need time, Ethan. I need to think about whether I can trust you again. Okay, I'll give you all the time you need. She wiped her eyes. I have to get back to work. He watched her walk back into the clinic, his heart in his throat. It wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes either. It was uncertainty, which was somehow worse than either. Over the next week, Ethan did everything he could think of to show Lena he meant what he'd said. He researched Margaret Whitfield and found documentation of the abuse investigation, court records showing that her son had indeed been removed from the home temporarily, confirmation that Lena's assessment had been correct. He compiled everything and sent it to Lena with a note. I should have looked for this before doubting you. I should have trusted you first. I'm sorry. He reached out to Dr. Patterson and asked if she would write a statement about Lena's competence and character. She did, and he sent that too. He showed up at Riverside Health with coffee and pastries for the staff, not trying to talk to Lena, just supporting the place she'd chosen to work. The receptionist started recognizing him. The nurses gave him knowing looks, but Lena kept her distance. Mia, still furious with him, started making her own gestures. She drew pictures for Lena and insisted Ethan deliver them. She wrote notes saying how much she missed her. She made it abundantly clear that she was Team Lena. I'm trying, baby, Ethan told her after another chilly dinner. Try harder, Mia said. You broke her heart. You have to show her you're not going to do it again. I don't know what else to do. Then think of something, because I really, really want her to come back. That night, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, Ethan finally understood what he needed to do. Words and gestures weren't enough. He needed to show Lena that he trusted her in a way that actually cost him something, in a way that demonstrated faith without safety net. The next morning, he called Mrs. Chen. I need a favor, he said. About time. What do you need? I need you to watch Mia this weekend. I have something important to do. Saturday morning, Ethan loaded his truck with tools and materials and drove to Riverside Health. He found the clinic administrator, a tired-looking woman named Rosa, who eyed him suspiciously. Can I help you? I'm a carpenter. I noticed your facility needs some work. Broken furniture, damaged cabinets, that kind of thing. I'd like to volunteer my time to fix it. Rosa's suspicion shifted to cautious hope. We don't have budget for repairs. I'm not asking for payment. I'm offering to do the work for free. Materials, too. Why? Because Dr. Park works here, and she deserves a facility that reflects the quality of care she provides. Rosa studied him for a long moment, then smiled. You're the boyfriend who screwed up. That's me. Well, come on then. We have a list a mile long of things that need fixing. He worked all weekend, repairing exam room cabinets, replacing broken chairs in the waiting room, fixing the reception desk that wobbled dangerously. Other volunteers joined him, a plumber who fixed the constantly running toilet, an electrician who addressed the flickering lights, a painter who'd been wanting to help. Lena saw him on Saturday afternoon. She stopped in the doorway of the exam room he was working in, arms crossed. "What are you doing?" He set down his drill. "Proving something." "Proving what?" "That I trust you, that I believe in what you're doing here, that I choose to support you without needing guarantees or safety nets." By fixing cabinets? By showing up. By using my skills to make your life easier, by being present in the way that matters. She was quiet, watching him work. "You don't have to do this. I know. I want to." On Sunday, Mia appeared with Mrs. Chen, carrying a plate of cookies. "For the volunteers," Mrs. Chen announced, "and for Dr. Park." Lena's face when she saw Mia was everything, joy and pain mixed together. Mia ran to her immediately. "I missed you so much," Mia said, hugging her tight. "I missed you too, sweetheart." "Are you mad at my dad?" "I'm hurt and confused, but not mad. He's really sorry, like really, really sorry. He's been sad every day since you left." "Mia," Ethan said, mortified. But Lena was looking at him with something softer than the anger he'd seen all week. "Has he? He doesn't smile anymore. He just works all the time and looks at that box he made you and looks sad." "You made me a box?" "It's not important," Ethan said quickly. "Yes, it is," Mia insisted. "It's the prettiest thing he's ever made, and he made it for you because he Okay, that's enough testimonials from the 9-year-old, Ethan interrupted, his face burning. Lena's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "I'd like to see this box sometime." "Anytime. It's yours. It's always been yours." The clinic's receptionist appeared, looking apologetic. "Dr. Park, we have an emergency walk-in, head laceration." Lena's professional mask snapped into place immediately. "I'll be right there." To Mia, she said, "Thank you for the cookies and for coming to see me." After she rushed off, Mrs. Chen gave Ethan an approving nod. Better. Still groveling, but better. Monday morning, Ethan returned to finish the last repairs. He was installing new cabinet handles in the supply room when Lena found him. "Can we talk?" she asked. His heart hammered. "Of course." She closed the door, leaning against it. "I've been thinking all weekend about what you said, about fear making you doubt me, about choosing protection over trust." "Lena, let me finish. I understand fear. I live with it every day, fear that my past will destroy every opportunity, that I'll never be able to practice medicine the way I believe it should be practiced, that everyone will eventually decide I'm not worth the trouble. So I get why you were scared. I really do. But I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly having to prove myself, where every challenge means you'll doubt me again. I need someone who believes in me even when it's hard, even when other people are saying terrible things, even when staying means risk. I can be that person. I want to be that person." "You say that now, but how do I know it's true?" Ethan set down his tools and moved to stand in front of her. "Because I spent this whole week showing you, not just telling you. Because I'm here, doing this work, not because I expect it to fix everything, but because this is what support looks like. Because I brought Mia here even though she's still mad at me, because I wanted you to see that we're both choosing you." "She's not mad anymore. She made that very clear this weekend. Still, the point is, I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm showing you through action that I trust you, that I believe in you, that I'm not going anywhere." Lena's eyes were bright. "You hurt me, Ethan, really hurt me. I know. And I'm sorry. I will spend however long it takes proving that I'm sorry, that I learned, that I won't make that mistake again. What if I can't forgive you? What if this broke something we can't fix? Then I'll accept that. But I'm hoping you'll give me a chance to rebuild what I broke. Not back to what it was, but into something stronger." She was crying now, quiet tears tracking down her face. "I want to believe you." "Then believe me. Take a leap of faith. Trust that I'm different than I was 2 weeks ago." "That's terrifying." I know, but you're brave. You've spent 2 years fighting for what's right, even when everyone told you to stop. You can be brave enough to give me another chance." She studied his face for a long moment, searching for something. Whatever she found there must have been enough, because she stepped forward and kissed him. "Okay," she whispered against his lips. "One more chance. But Ethan, if you doubt me again, if you let fear win again, I'm done. I can't survive this twice." "You won't have to, I promise." They stood in the clinic's supply room, holding each other while outside the daily chaos of serving Portland's most vulnerable continued. It wasn't a perfect resolution, wasn't the kind of dramatic reunion that erased all hurt with a single gesture. It was messy and conditional and built on hope rather than certainty. But it was real. And for two people who'd both been broken by trusting the wrong people, real was more valuable than perfect. "I have conditions," Lena said, pulling back to look at him. "Okay. We go slow. We rebuild trust deliberately. And you have to tell me when you're scared instead of acting on that fear without talking to me first. I can do that. And you have to let me meet your brother. Mia talks about Uncle David constantly, and I want to meet the family. Done. And you have to give me that box, because Mia made it sound incredible, and I want to see what you made for me." He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in 2 weeks. "It's in my truck. I brought it today, just in case." "Just in case I forgave you?" "Just in case you were willing to try." She kissed him again, softer this time. "I'm willing to try." Later, sitting in his truck in the clinic's parking lot, Ethan presented her with the jewelry box. Lena opened it carefully, running her fingers over the intricate inlay work. "Ethan, this is beautiful. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. It's for you, for your fresh start, for whatever you want to keep safe." She looked at him with eyes full of emotion. "Thank you. For this. For everything. For not giving up even when I was ready to. You're worth fighting for. I should have remembered that from the beginning. We both have things to work on. You have trust issues. I have walls built from years of being betrayed. But maybe we can work on them together. I'd like that." They sat together in comfortable silence, Lena holding the box in her lap, both of them understanding that this was a new beginning built on harder wisdom. They'd broken and started to heal, and that process had taught them what they needed to know about each other. That they were both capable of choosing love even after fear, of rebuilding even after destruction, of trusting even after betrayal. It wasn't the easy path, but it was the real one. And for two people who'd both learned that easy promises meant nothing, real was everything. Rebuilding trust wasn't a single conversation or grand gesture. It was 1,000 small moments over the weeks that followed, each one adding another brick to the foundation they were constructing together. Ethan learned to voice his fears instead of letting them fester. Lena learned to lower her walls enough to let him see when she was struggling. They stumbled, had difficult conversations, worked through misunderstandings with the kind of honesty that felt raw and uncomfortable and necessary. Mia watched it all with the shrewd awareness of a child who understood more than adults gave her credit for. She seemed satisfied that her father was trying, that Lena had come back, that their small family was expanding in ways that felt organic rather than forced. Christmas came with its own challenges and unexpected joys. Ethan invited Lena to spend the holiday with them, then immediately panicked about what that meant, whether it was too soon, whether he was pushing too hard. Lena accepted with equal parts excitement and anxiety, both of them navigating the minefield of creating new traditions while honoring the complexity of their situation. On Christmas morning, Mia woke them both at an ungodly hour, bouncing on Ethan's bed where Lena had fallen asleep the night before after watching movies and talking until late. "It's Christmas! Wake up! Wake up!" Lena groaned, pulling a pillow over her head. "What time is it?" 6:15, Ethan said, checking his phone, which is actually late for her. She's been very restrained. "I've been awake since 5, Mia informed them proudly, "but I stayed in bed like you said." "You're a saint," Lena mumbled, sitting up and trying to smooth her disheveled hair. Downstairs, the modest tree they decorated together glowed with lights. Presents clustered beneath it, mostly for Mia, but Ethan had agonized over what to get Lena, finally settling on a beautiful stethoscope engraved with her name and the date she'd started at Riverside Health. Lena had done the same, surprising him with a set of specialized Japanese chisels he'd been coveting for months but would never have bought for himself. "How did you know about these?" he asked, turning them over in his hands with reverence. "I may have asked around at woodworking stores. The guy at Woodcraft was very helpful once I explained I was shopping for someone who takes his craft seriously." "These are incredible, thank you." Mia opened her presents with enthusiastic chaos, delighted by everything from books to art supplies to the new winter coat Lena had bought her without telling Ethan. "You didn't have to do that," Ethan said quietly, while Mia tried on the coat for the third time, admiring herself in the hallway mirror. "I wanted to. She's important to me." The simple statement carried weight. They both knew what it meant, that Lena was investing in this, in them, in a future that included all three of them. Later, while Mia was absorbed in a new puzzle, Mrs. Chen stopped by with her traditional Christmas dumplings. She took one look at the domestic scene, Ethan cooking breakfast, Lena helping Mia, the easy way they moved around each other, and smiled with deep satisfaction. "Good," she said to Ethan in the kitchen. "You fixed it. I'm working on it every day. That's all anyone can do. Work on it every day, choose it every day. Love isn't magic, it's a decision you keep making." Her words stayed with him through the holiday, through the quiet days between Christmas and New Year, when Portland turned gray and wet and everyone hibernated indoors. He thought about choice, about how he'd spent 2 years choosing safety over risk, isolation over connection. Choosing Lena meant choosing vulnerability, choosing to trust that not everyone would leave just because Sarah had. It was terrifying. It was also the only path forward that didn't lead to a life half-lived. New Year's Eve found them at the Beacon Diner, the three of them in their usual booth. Rita had decorated with streamers that had probably been hanging since 1985, and the place was packed with people who had nowhere else to be and didn't mind. "We're going to stay up until midnight," Mia announced, though her eyes were already heavy at 9:30. "We'll see about that," Ethan said, amused. Lena was quiet, watching the diner's patrons with the observant attention she brought to everything. Ethan followed her gaze to a young couple in the corner, clearly in the early stages of falling in love, all nervous touches and bright laughter. "That was us a few months ago," he said quietly. "Was it?" Lena turned to him. "It feels like longer, like you've been part of my life forever." "In a good way?" "In the best way, even with the rough parts." By 11, Mia had fallen asleep with her head on Lena's shoulder. They let her doze, content to sit in comfortable silence while the diner buzzed around them. When midnight approached, Rita turned up the television showing the Times Square broadcast, and the whole restaurant counted down together. At midnight, Ethan kissed Lena while Mia slept between them, and thought about how this was exactly where he wanted to be, not at some fancy party or exciting celebration, but in a worn vinyl booth with his daughter and the woman he was falling in love with, surrounded by people who understood that sometimes the best moments were the quiet ones. "Happy New Year," Lena whispered. "Happy New Year." January brought rain and challenges in equal measure. Riverside Health was struggling financially, operating on grants that barely covered operating costs. Lena worked brutal hours trying to serve a patient population that seemed to expand daily. Ethan watched her burn herself out and struggled with how to help without overstepping. "I'm fine," she insisted after another 14-hour shift. "You're exhausted." "I'm needed." "You're both. Those things aren't mutually exclusive." She sank onto his couch, too tired to even take off her coat. "There are so many people who need care, Ethan. Children with untreated conditions, families who can't afford preventive medicine, people who've been ignored by the healthcare system for years. I can't just stop serving them because I'm tired." "No one's asking you to stop, but you have to take care of yourself or you'll be no good to anyone." "I know, I just don't know how to do both." He sat beside her, pulling her against him. "We'll figure it out, together." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. David called in mid-January with a proposition. "So Emily and I have been talking," he said, referencing his wife who worked in nonprofit development, "and we think Riverside Health needs better fundraising infrastructure. Would Lena be open to some consulting help?" "I don't know if they can afford consultants. We do it pro bono. Emily's been wanting to give back, and this sounds like exactly the kind of place that deserves support. Plus, I want to meet this woman who's got my little brother building furniture and doing volunteer construction. Ethan pitched the idea to Lena, who was skeptical at first but desperate enough to consider anything. Emily came down from Seattle for a weekend and spent 2 days at the clinic taking notes and asking questions. By Sunday, she had a preliminary development plan that made Rosa cry with relief. "You really think we can raise this kind of money?" Rosa asked, staring at Emily's projections. "I think you're providing essential services to underserved populations, and there are donors who care about that. You just need help telling your story effectively." Within a month, Emily had helped them secure a significant grant and connected them with a network of donors. The clinic hired another physician and a nurse practitioner, taking pressure off Lena's impossible schedule. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was breathing room. "Your family is amazing," Lena told Ethan, exhausted but happy after the first full weekend off she'd had in months. "They like you. David said you remind him of Emily, stubborn and idealistic and unwilling to accept that broken systems can't be fixed." "Is that a compliment?" "From David?" "Absolutely." She kissed him, soft and grateful. "Thank you for sharing them with me, for letting me be part of your world." "You are my world, you and Mia." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Too honest, too vulnerable. Lena pulled back to look at him, her eyes searching. "Do you mean that?" "Yes. I love you, Lena. I've loved you since you fought for Mia in that hospital, maybe even since I found you in the rain. I love your courage and your stubbornness and the way you refuse to give up even when you should. I love how you are with Mia, how you talk to her like she matters. I love that you chose purpose over prestige, that you keep choosing to do what's right even when it costs you everything." Tears streamed down her face. "I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid that admitting it would give you power to hurt me again. But I do. I love you so much it terrifies me. We can be terrified together." "I'd like that." They held each other while rain drummed against the windows, both understanding that love didn't erase fear or guarantee safety. It just made the risk worthwhile. February brought Mia's 10th birthday and all the elaborate planning that came with it. She wanted a party at a science museum, invited half her class, and insisted that Lena be there. "She's going to be your stepmom anyway, right?" Mia said while they addressed invitations. Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. "We haven't talked about that, baby." "Why not? You love her, she loves you. She basically lives here on weekends. What else is there to talk about?" "A lot of things. Marriage is complicated." "No, it's not. It's just promising to love someone and not leave even when things get hard. You already do that." Out of the mouths of babes. Ethan thought about Mia's simple wisdom, about how children often saw clearly what adults overcomplicated. He did love Lena. She did love him. They were already building a life together, already choosing each other every day. What was marriage except making that choice official, promising to keep choosing no matter what? The birthday party was chaotic and perfect. Mia glowed with happiness, surrounded by friends and family, showing off her growing mastery of the world. Lena was in her element, explaining science exhibits to curious kids, treating everyone with the same careful attention she brought to her patients. Watching her, Ethan felt certainty settle in his chest. This was his future. This woman. This life they were building. This family they were becoming. Not perfect, not easy, but real and worth fighting for. Later that night, after guests had left and Mia was asleep surrounded by presents, Lena helped him clean up the debris of celebration. "That was a good day," she said, loading the dishwasher. "The best. She's growing up so fast, 10 years old. Soon she'll be a teenager and we'll be the embarrassing adults she has to tolerate." "We?" Lena paused, seeming to realize what she'd said. "I mean, if that's okay. If you want me to be part of her growing up." "Lena." He took her hand, sticky with birthday cake icing. "I want you to be part of everything. Her growing up, my workshop projects, Sunday morning pancakes, terrible movies on Friday nights, all of it. I want you to be here, with us, permanently." "Permanently?" "Yeah, move in with us. Not right away, not if you're not ready, but soon, when it feels right." Her smile was brilliant. "I'd like that. My apartment lease is up in March anyway, and I hate that place. Too many walls, not enough light. March is perfect. Gives us time to make room, to do this right. She kissed him, tasting like sugar and joy. I can't believe this is my life. 6 months ago, I was sitting in the rain thinking I'd lost everything. Now I have you and Mia and work that matters, and a future that doesn't look like survival. How did this happen? You stopped in the rain. I picked you up. We chose to try. It can't be that simple. Why not? The best things usually are. March arrived with unexpected sunshine and the monumental task of combining households. Lena didn't have much. Years of temporary living had taught her to travel light, but what she did have spoke volumes about who she was. Medical textbooks and journals, photos of her family in Korea, a few treasured possessions that had survived every move. She integrated them carefully into Ethan and Mia's space, adding layers without erasing what was already there. Mia was thrilled, claiming Lena as her official bonus parent and insisting on helping organize Lena's medical books in the living room. Now it really feels like home, Mia announced, stepping back to admire their work. It does, doesn't it? Lena agreed, looking around at the apartment that had become theirs. A real home. They fell into new rhythms. Morning chaos of getting ready for school and work, evenings of homework and dinner preparation, weekends of workshop projects and clinic volunteering, and lazy mornings in bed. It wasn't seamless. There were disagreements about chores and space and how to load the dishwasher, but they worked through each conflict with the kind of honest communication they'd both learned was essential. In April, Mrs. Chen had a health scare that landed her in the hospital. Ethan and Lena took turns sitting with her, bringing her favorite foods, making sure she wasn't alone. When she was released, weak but recovering, she gripped Lena's hand with surprising strength. "You take care of my boy," she said, "and that precious girl. They need you." "I need them too," Lena replied. "They saved me." "You saved each other. That's how it works when it's right." The community health clinic continued to grow, fueled by Emily's fundraising work and increasing awareness of the services they provided. They were able to hire more staff, expand hours, serve even more families who had nowhere else to turn. Lena threw herself into developing programs, a pediatric clinic on weekends, health education classes, partnerships with schools to provide screening services. Watching her thrive, seeing her build something meaningful from the ashes of her destroyed career, filled Ethan with profound pride. She'd refused to let institutional failures define her. She'd found her own path, created her own version of success that had nothing to do with prestige and everything to do with purpose. His business was growing too, word of mouth bringing steady work. He was able to hire an apprentice, a young woman fresh out of trade school who reminded him of himself at that age, hungry to learn, desperate to create something beautiful. Teaching her felt like giving back, like passing forward the knowledge others had shared with him. May brought Mia's first school dance, which prompted all kinds of preteen drama about dresses and friends, and whether boys were gross or interesting. Lena helped her navigate it with the perfect balance of support and humor, treating Mia's concerns as legitimate while also maintaining perspective. "She's so good with her," Mrs. Chen observed, watching Lena braid Mia's hair while discussing the social dynamics of 5th grade. "She is," Ethan agreed. "She's good with both of us." "So when are you going to make it official?" "Make what official?" Mrs. Chen gave him a look. "Don't play dumb. When are you going to marry that girl?" The question had been circling in Ethan's mind for weeks. He'd thought about it constantly, how to ask, when to ask, whether Lena would say yes. They'd both been so damaged by their pasts, so careful about promises and commitments, but they'd also built something real, something that had survived doubt and fear and the hard work of choosing each other every day. "I'm working on it," he told Mrs. Chen. "Work faster. Life's too short to wait for perfect timing." He started planning in secret, enlisting Mia as his co-conspirator. She was ecstatic, immediately diving into elaborate schemes that he had to gently scale back. "We're not hiring a flash mob, baby." "Why not? Lena loves dancing." "She loves quiet dancing in our kitchen at midnight, not choreographed public spectacles." "Fine, but it still needs to be romantic." "I'm working on that part." He decided to build her something, a piece of furniture that would serve as both proposal and promise. A writing desk, carefully crafted from cherry wood with secret compartments for keeping precious things safe. He worked on it late at night after everyone was asleep, losing himself in the meditation of creation. David called regularly to check progress. "You're really doing this?" "Yeah, I am." "Good. She's perfect for you, you know. I've never seen you this happy." "I've never been this happy. Even with Sarah, even in the good times, it wasn't like this. This feels like coming home." But that's how it should feel. That's how I knew Emily was the one. Being with her felt like finally arriving somewhere I'd been trying to get to my whole life. The desk took shape slowly, each joint fitted with precise care, each surface sanded to silk smoothness. He carved a small inscription inside one of the hidden compartments, words from his heart. "For Lena, who taught me that broken things can be beautiful when they're rebuilt with love." He planned to propose on a Saturday in late May, at the farmer's market where they'd had their second chance coffee date. Mia was fully briefed, Mrs. Chen was standing by to provide distraction if needed, and David and Emily were driving down to be there for the aftermath. The morning arrived with perfect weather, Portland showing off with blue skies and gentle warmth. Ethan was a nervous wreck, checking his pocket for the ring every 30 seconds. He'd agonized over it for weeks before finding a simple platinum band with a small, ethically sourced diamond. Nothing flashy, but elegant and meaningful. "You're fidgeting," Lena observed as they walked through the market, Mia between them holding both their hands. "Am I?" "Didn't notice." "You're a terrible liar." She looked at him with affectionate concern. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect." They wandered through vendor stalls, sampling cheese and buying fresh flowers, falling into the easy rhythm they'd developed over months of Saturday mornings together. When they reached the coffee stand where he'd given her the jewelry box, Ethan felt his heart hammering. "Can we sit for a minute?" he asked. "Sure." They settled on the same bench overlooking the river. Mia, following the plan perfectly, suddenly remembered she wanted to look at something and ran off with Mrs. Chen, who'd appeared right on cue. "That was suspiciously convenient," Lena said, amused. "She's subtle like that." Lena turned to him, taking in his nervous energy. "Ethan, what's going on? You're acting strange." He took her hands, his own shaking slightly. "I need to tell you something." "Okay, you're kind of scaring me." "Don't be scared. It's good. At least I hope it's good. I hope you think it's good." He was rambling, nerves making him incoherent. "Sorry, I had this planned out better. Just say it. 6 months ago, I found you in the rain. You were broken and crying, and I almost drove past because getting involved seemed risky. But I stopped, and that decision changed everything. You changed everything." Tears were already forming in Lena's eyes. "Ethan, let me finish, please. You taught me that love isn't about safety or guarantees. It's about choosing someone every day, about building something beautiful from broken pieces, about having the courage to trust even after you've been betrayed. You showed me what it means to fight for what matters, to refuse to give up even when everyone tells you to. And you loved my daughter like she was your own, loved me when I didn't deserve it, loved us both back to life." He slid off the bench, kneeling on the weathered boards, and pulled out the ring. "Lena Park, I love you with everything I am. I want to choose you every day for the rest of my life. I want to build a future with you, raise Mia together, create something meaningful that lasts. Will you marry me?" She was crying openly now, one hand over her mouth. "Yes. Oh my God, yes." He slipped the ring on her shaking finger and pulled her into his arms. Around them, people had stopped to watch, smiling at the scene. Someone started clapping, and soon the whole corner of the market was applauding. Mia came running back, Mrs. Chen following at a more sedate pace. "Did she say yes?" "She said yes, right?" "She said yes," Lena confirmed, laughing through tears as Mia launched herself at both of them. "Now you're really going to be my bonus mom. This is the best day ever." David and Emily appeared from wherever they'd been hiding. Congratulations and hugs all around. Rita from the diner showed up with champagne she'd somehow smuggled into the farmer's market. The celebration spilled across the afternoon, impromptu and joyful and perfect in its imperfection. Later, back at the apartment with everyone finally gone, the three of them sat together on the couch in comfortable exhaustion. "I can't believe you all planned that without me knowing," Lena said, admiring her ring. "We're sneaky. Mia said proudly. Dad made you a desk, too. It's in the workshop. It has secret compartments and everything. You made me a desk? I'll show you tomorrow. Too tired now. They sat in peaceful silence, Mia dozing between them, the evening light painting everything gold. I have something to tell you, too, Lena said quietly. Ethan's heart skipped. Yeah? The clinic is opening a free pediatric surgery program. We partnered with Portland General. They're donating surgical time and facilities for kids who can't afford necessary procedures. They asked me to direct it. Lena, that's incredible. It feels like everything coming full circle. I went into medicine to protect kids from unnecessary procedures, and now I get to make sure kids who need procedures can actually get them. It's not Boston Children's Hospital, but it's better. It's real. You're amazing. You know that? I'm just doing what I'm meant to do. Same as you with your woodworking, your teaching. We're all just finding our way to purpose. And to each other, and to each other. The wedding happened in September, a small ceremony in Mrs. Chen's garden with only closest friends and family. Mia served as ring bearer and gave a speech that made everyone cry about how happy she was to officially have two parents who loved her and each other. Rita catered with diner food that tasted like home. David officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. Ethan and Lena wrote their own vows. His promise to choose her every day, to trust her even when fear whispered doubts, to build a life worthy of her courage. Hers promise to let him in, to trust that love could be safe, to believe that some people stay. When they kissed, sealing promises made and meant, Ethan thought about the rainy night that had started everything. How close he'd come to driving past, to missing this entire future. How one moment of choosing kindness over safety had led to everything that mattered. They didn't honeymoon immediately. Money was tight, and Lena couldn't leave the clinic for long. But they promised themselves a trip eventually, when timing allowed. For now, being together was enough, more than enough. The months that followed brought the ordinary magic of building a life together. Disagreements about whose turn it was to do dishes, negotiations about holiday travel, the slow weaving of two lives and one child into a cohesive family. They fought sometimes, hard conversations about money and boundaries and fear that crept in despite their best intentions. But they also laughed, loved, celebrated small victories, and weathered setbacks together. Riverside Health continued to grow, serving more families every month. The pediatric surgery program was a massive success, providing procedures to children who'd been on waiting lists for years. Lena threw herself into the work with the fierce dedication that defined her, but she also learned to come home, to rest, to let Ethan and Mia care for her the way she cared for everyone else. Ethan's workshop thrived. He took on bigger commissions, his reputation growing through word of mouth and the occasional feature in local design magazines. He loved teaching his apprentice, watching her skills develop, passing forward the knowledge he'd accumulated. Some evenings, he'd come home to find Lena and Mia in his workshop, Lena learning to sand and Mia working on small projects of her own. The space that had been his solitary refuge became a family gathering place, filled with conversation and laughter and the smell of fresh sawdust. Mia grew taller, smarter, more confident. She excelled in school, made friends easily, and seemed to carry none of the abandonment trauma that Ethan had feared. When asked about her family, she spoke easily about her dad and her bonus mom, about how families came in all different shapes, and all of them were valid as long as they were built on love. On the one-year anniversary of the rainy night when everything changed, Ethan and Lena drove back to that bus stop. It was pouring again, the city gray and wet and indifferent. The bench where she'd sat crying was still there, still abandoned, still overlooked by everyone passing by. Hard to believe it's only been a year, Lena said, staring at the spot that had once held her lowest moment. Feels like a lifetime ago. It was a lifetime ago. We're completely different people now. Better people. Together people. She leaned against him. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for getting in the truck. They stood there in the rain, getting soaked, not caring. Around them, Portland carried on, people hurrying home from work, buses splashing through puddles, life happening in its messy, beautiful way. They were just two people in the chaos, insignificant in the grand scheme, but everything to each other. We should go, Lena said eventually. Mia's waiting for us to start movie night. Yeah, let's go home. Home. The word carried weight now, meant more than just an address. It meant Mia's laughter and Mrs. Chen's dumplings and the workshop where he built beautiful things. It meant Lena's medical bag by the door and her books on every surface and the way she hummed while making coffee. It meant choosing each other through every doubt and fear and challenge, building something strong enough to weather any storm. They drove through the rain toward their apartment, toward their daughter, toward the life they'd constructed from broken pieces and brave choices. The jewelry box sat on Lena's dresser, holding the small treasures she wanted to keep safe. The writing desk occupied a corner of their bedroom, its secret compartments containing love letters and photos and reminders of promises kept. Neither of them believed in fate or destiny or things being meant to be. They believed in choice, in daily decisions to show up and try and love even when it was hard. They believed in rebuilding, in the beauty of imperfect things made whole through care and commitment. As they pulled into their parking spot, Mia's face appeared in the window, watching for them, her expression lighting up when she saw their truck. She waved enthusiastically, and they waved back, two people who'd found each other in the rain and chosen to build something lasting from that fragile beginning. The rain that had once felt like an ending had become their origin story, the moment when two broken people decided that maybe, just maybe, they could be whole together. And in choosing that possibility, in being brave enough to trust after betrayal, they'd found something neither had dared to hope for anymore. A love that stayed, that healed, that grew stronger through every challenge. They climbed out of the truck and hurried through the rain toward home, toward warmth and light and the life they'd built. Behind them, the bus stop stood empty in the downpour, just another unremarkable piece of Portland's landscape. But for Ethan and Lena, it would always be sacred ground. The place where kindness had sparked connection, where loneliness had found companionship, where two people drowning in their separate storms had discovered they could shelter each other. Inside, Mia had already set up the movie, made popcorn, arranged blankets on the couch in the specific configuration she preferred. She grinned at them as they shook off the rain. "You guys are soaked. Did you just stand in the rain being romantic?" "Maybe," Ethan admitted. "That's so cheesy." "I love it." She patted the couch. "Come on, movie's starting." They settled in on either side of her, Lena and Ethan's hands meeting behind Mia's shoulders. The movie played, something animated and colorful that Mia had chosen, and they watched in comfortable togetherness. This was the happy ending that neither of them had believed in anymore. Not dramatic or perfect, but real and lasting and built on the foundation of daily choice. They'd been broken separately and had healed together, learning that love wasn't about never falling apart, but about helping each other rebuild, again and again, for as long as they both kept choosing it. Outside, the rain continued falling on Portland's streets, washing everything clean, preparing the ground for new growth. And inside, in a small apartment filled with laughter and light and the evidence of lives well lived, three people who'd found each other through kindness and courage settled into the beautiful ordinary of loving and being loved. The storm had brought them together, but it was choice, daily, deliberate, brave, that would keep them that way.